Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Now, I'm very happy that the questions are coming. Through the questions, I can understand your conditioning. If there are no questions, it's very difficult to understand the conditioning. And finally, I'm here to teach you, and I can only teach you when I know your conditioning well. So, we will devote the first part of, if I have to answer all the questions in detail, then we won't have time for explanation at all. So we will now explain, say, for till 11 o'clock, and then from 11 o'clock to what, 11, half past 11 or 11:15? 11:20, or a little late, never mind. We will then go to the questions. So now we have decided to, in the morning, to go through more the practical part of the practice and connect it with the evening analysis of the text, which introduces you into the, say, the northern tradition of meditation on the breath. And we will little bit develop on that based on our practice of Qigong, yoga, little bit. All these practices can be actually integrated into the awareness of the breath, meditation of the breath. We have explained in the Buddhist tradition, awareness actually means wisdom, samprajanya, ginger. And through wisdom, finally we become, I have explained, we become purified. But the wisdom never comes alone. In the Dhammapada there is a very beautiful verse which says, for those of you who learn Pali, you may find it useful, very, very simple Pali. Saddena tarati ogam apamadena anavam. Viryena dukkham accheti panyaya visujati. We can never purify our mind through awareness, and we are connecting the process of purification of the mind is the process of purification of the what Buddhism calls the mental formations. Actually, we purify the mind by purifying the mental formations, starting with perception, with sensations, with attention. So, in the Buddhist tradition, of course, we are emphasizing mindfulness, but in the Buddhist tradition, mindfulness is anchored in the faith. That's why saddena tarati ogam. We go beyond the flood. This flood is nothing but our suffering. Suffering is flood. Suffering is samsara. So, according to the Buddhist tradition, now the so-called scientific approach to mindfulness is becoming very, very popular all around the world. But actually, in Buddhism, the practice of mindfulness is anchored in faith. And faith means we know what we're doing. It is not a blind faith. Buddhism never praises blind faith. That's why in Pali the faith is called Okapana. Sometimes the study of languages is very useful. Here we have the great master. Okapana comes from the Sanskrit root klip, which means to arrange. O means ava. We have to arrange ourselves with what we're doing. That is a real faith. So it implies understanding. Understanding what? Understanding of the causes and conditions. So, when we understand the causes and conditions, then we develop the wisdom. Same in meditation, same in everything we are doing. So, faith actually means also a resolution. It implies a desire for what we're doing. This is very important to understand also in the process of meditation. We have to develop enthusiasm, we have to develop desire. Then we will get the mindfulness, which crosses the ocean, Buddha says. Again, the ocean of what? Ocean of this suffering, of samsara. So, apamada means non-negligence. Non-negligence is a synonym of mindfulness. Because we have faith, we become non-negligent. We become mindful. And because we are mindful, then we can develop the right effort. Through effort, we then cross the suffering. Then Buddha says the wisdom will purify. So now we are talking about the meditation on the breath. And the meditation on the breath is, we have explained, the connected with the practice of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And in Buddhism, the 4 foundations of mindfulness is the base for all practices. It doesn't really matter whether we practice the Theravada tradition, Chinese tradition, Tibetan tradition. Finally, the base of all real wholesome meditations is the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Through the 4 foundations of mindfulness, we then develop the right effort. And when we have the right effort, all the positive faculties can ripen. then the horizon of the awakening comes. And this is what is to be realized by the practice of meditation on the breath. So, in this perspective, the first, we will go through it again in our text in the evening. The Anapana Sutra explained this meditation on the breath by means of the 16 exercises. And the first 4, they are the base. Without them, the others cannot crystallize. Impossible. And the first 4 exercises, they are connected with the literally mindfulness gone into the body. So we have explained the isolation of the body, which leads to the isolation of the mind, which is actually the state of absorption, dhyana. And strictly speaking, according to the scriptures, we have to go into dhyana to practice vipassana really efficiently. And dhyana actually means that that's why in northern tradition, practice of vipassana, we have explained, is explained as practice of vichara. Vichara means sustaining the attention, sustaining the mind on the chosen object and penetrating it, whatever the object may be. From here we get the intuition. Now, we have also explained, and it is very important to keep in mind, the peculiarity of the northern tradition is that you can actually, in Buddhism, the yoga is explained as shamatha and vipassana. And you can actually, from the very beginning, not wait until you have the realization, but from the very beginning, on the base of understanding that all objects are mental objects. This is emphasis of the Mahayana teachers. Based on this emphasis, then we can combine the shamatha approach and vipassana approach from the very beginning. This we will explain in the evening. This is what our scripture here, Yogacara Bhumi Shastra, teaches. And it is a base for all the other teachings you will find in the Mahayana tradition in China, in Tibet, explaining the meditation on the breath. So actually, not according to this Yogacara philosophy, not only the meditation object, all objects are mental objects. This is what is to be realized. And you can only realize it by isolating the senses from the outside objects and bringing the mind inside. So the Yogacara is called Yogacara because it is the conduct of the yogis. Conduct of the yogis is to turn the mind inside, into the body, not outside. When we turn the mind outside, it becomes a monkey mind. Yet it does not mean, we have explained the fact of mindfulness is we turn the mind inside, but we are completely aware, very clearly aware, everything of what is going on outside. Yet our mind remains concentrated, remains very stable, never leaves the firm perception. And firm perception is the firm sensation. Our sensations are unstable because the perceptions are unstable. And the perceptions are unstable because we don't have mindfulness. So, we want to purify our mind by wisdom, then we have to have resolution, we have to have faith in what we're doing, we have to understand what we're doing. Then we can practice mindfulness correctly, and when we practice mindfulness correctly, we will use the correct effort to attain what is to be attained. And what is to be attained is basically the same in all traditions. There is no difference. It is the purification of the mind. It is in the Theravada tradition, we chant every day, the teaching of the Buddha is nothing but the Sachita Paryodapanam, the purification of one's mind. That's what all the Buddhas teach. That's what all the Arahats teach. That's what all the Pratyeka Buddhas teach, if they teach. And that will never come if we don't practice with resolution, faith, if we don't practice with mindfulness, and if we don't practice with a correct effort. Then the concentration becomes natural. But in the beginning, the concentration will not be natural. Now, most of us have a problem because the concentration is not natural. Concentration is not natural. We use a forceful attention. Because we use forceful attention, we are not comfortable. But in the beginning, we cannot avoid not being comfortable. It's impossible. So, we have to have understanding. Yogacara Bhumi Shastra explained, the understanding is the power which brings you the faith, the resolution. So we have to have the power from hearing, we have to have the power from contemplation to see very clearly, unless we experience the subtle objects, we will not experience more subtle states of mind. And as long as we don't experience the subtle states of mind, we will not find much enjoyment in meditation. So we have to bring wisdom into our meditation. So the first exercise is connected with the practice of meditation on the breath. What does a Buddha teach? Digam asasanto, digam asasami tipajanati, digam pasasanto, digam pasasami tipajanati, rasam asasanto, rasam asasami tipajanati, rasam pasasanto, rasam pasasami tipajanati. I know with wisdom, pajanati, from panya, poje. I know with wisdom, with understanding, with clear differentiation, that I am breathing, while I am breathing in a long breath. I know with clear understanding when I am breathing out the long breath. I know with clear understanding when I am breathing out the breathing in the short breath. I know with clear understanding while breathing out the short breath. This is the base for the deepening of the mindfulness practice. So on this base, then we can go into the more and more subtle breaths and more subtle mind and mind conditioning, sensations, perceptions, because we bring a clear differentiation into our practice. Clear differentiation is wisdom. Now we will talk about it in the evening. Even in this practice of observing the long or short breaths, how do we observe the long and short breaths? On the base of the trajectory, the breath is passing in the body. If the trajectory is long, then it is a long breath. If it is short, it is a short breath. The Anapanasati Sutta gives an example of it's called turner. In India, you can still see it nowadays. In Sri Lanka, they are working on the leather by turning the wheel by hand. If they turn quickly, so it is like a short breath. If they slowly, then it is a long breath. Or there is an example of the billows. The end of the billows is our nostrils. The body are the billows, and the mind is what presses the billows. If it presses slowly, then it is a long breath. If it presses quickly, it is the short breath. This is how we bring understanding into our practice. And this is how we can stay with a clear differentiation of the breath. When the mind has a clear differentiation, it becomes vigilant. It becomes aware. Then we can understand the obstacles. If the mind is not vigilant, not aware, we have obstacles, but we even don't understand them. We don't know them. What we do not know, we cannot remove. We cannot. Impossible. That's why the wisdom, awareness is the purification of the mind. We know the obstacles, therefore we can remove them. And how do we remove them? By shamatha and vipassana. In this tradition, we can alternate, because all is mental object, we can alternate the approach of shamatha and vipassana. When the mind is thinking and when it is concentrated, it has always some tendency to think. Then we investigate the object by differentiating. We will find it in our text. When the mind becomes excited, when it starts running here, running there, then we have to concentrate it. Then we use the non-differentiated image in the mind. And we can alternate them. We can alternate them in accordance with our need, with the understanding that as long as there is no genuine realization, we are only working with images, only working with, so to say, the concepts. We do not know yet the reality. So, in the northern tradition, it is especially emphasized. This is different, that actually the vipassana is on the concept. Not on the reality. The reality is beyond understanding. is beyond the words, because it cannot be held. This is the emphasis of the Northern tradition. This you will find in all scriptures. Starting with the Sandhi Nirmochana Sutra, in the Huayan and so on. The reality is one, and the one is very difficult to understand. Why? Because our mind is used to differentiation. It works by differentiation. And we, so to say, we use differentiation to go beyond differentiation. There is no other way. So that means then we really start meditating, we really start developing mindfulness when we bring wisdom into the observation of the breath. We see clearly that the breath is long due to what? Well, how it becomes. When we start meditating, very important for the beginners, we have to relax. If we not relax, we will not experience the breath clearly. Because we will not experience the breath clearly, we will start thinking about other things. It is very natural. Only when we experience the breath clearly, the mind will stay with the breath. Then, as the Visuddhimagga, Patisambhida Magga explains, when the mind stays with the breath, it will be fulfilled with what it is doing, observing the breath. Then it will find happiness. Happiness in breathing in and breathing out. When it finds happiness in breathing in and breathing out, the breath will become more subtle automatically. Why? It is a natural psychology. Our mind wants to stay where it is comfortable, and it wants to run away where it is uncomfortable. The natural instinct. All beings search for one thing, not two things, and that is happiness. In meditation, we are also using this psychology, same psychology. When you don't find happiness in meditation, you will try to grasp it somewhere else. This is natural instinct. But when you find happiness in meditation, then you will see that this happiness is much more subtle than any other happiness. So you will detach. This is how Buddha explains the detachment. By experiencing more subtle happiness, we detach from the more gross happiness. You will find in many suttas, agamas, Buddha explains meditation in this way. So the first step really in meditation is to find contentment, find happiness in the act of observation of the breath. And for that, the breath has to be clear, distinguished very, very clearly. And it will not become clear unless we are relaxed. So don't hurry to go into the jhanas and I don't know what. First, just relax. When you relax, the breath will become smooth. Now, in the Tiantai tradition, this also in a way is integrated into the wise observation of the long or short breath. In the Tiantai tradition, we distinguish 4 types of breath. The first is called Feng, the wind breath. The wind breath is a breath which makes a sound. When our breathing makes a sound, it means what? Our mind, which observes the breath, is very rough. Very important to understand, in a way, the Yogacara explanation of meditation is greatly based on that. How we experience the object depends how we make the object in the mind. Very important to understand. And making object in the mind is a literal meaning of attention. And according to Abhidhamma teaching, all the mental processes start with attention. When there is attention, mind can go to the object. When the mind goes to the object, then all the mental factors can become activated. And the content of the mind is very important to understand. Are these mental factors? They decide the content of the mind. What is the content of the mind without the mental factors? This is what is to be. You have to find by yourself. Now, if we relax and observe the breath mindfully, we will find satisfaction with the breath. The breath will become long and clearly noticeable. When we feel happy with what we are doing, we will get more concentration. When we can detach from this concentrated mind, happy mind, we can go deep into meditation. Then what will happen? The breath will become more subtle, and the more subtle breath becomes shorter and shorter. That's why first the long breath, then the short breath. It doesn't mean that always the short breath belongs to the subtle mind. Sometimes the short breath belongs to the unstable emotions also. So we have to distinguish very clearly with wisdom what short breath belongs to the subtle, concentrated mind and what belongs to the perverted emotions, feelings, based on holding, grasping, possessing, or on rejecting forcefully. So this is how we observe the long breath and short breath with wisdom. Through this, we do not need to think. If you start thinking, you are in a way out of the whole picture. Because the purpose of the meditation on the breath is to get rid of useless thinking, useless vitarka. But it does not mean you should not think. If you decide not to think, it's better to think than to decide not to think. We are learning meditation to understand thinking, not to oppress the thinking. When we understand the thinking will not trouble us. The thinking is trouble us because we don't understand the thinking. So when you are able to observe a long or short breath with wisdom, understanding the conditioning, then naturally it is the same process. You will be able to follow this long or short breath. So the next step is the following. After counting, the following. Now in the Tiantai tradition, all these 6 steps, they are explained as Xiu and Zhen. Xiu means practice and Zhen means to realize. Realize the practice. So we practice the counting in order to stay with the object. If we don't count the breath or we don't use some method to stay with the breath, then the mind will go somewhere else, especially in the beginning stages of meditation when we have not yet developed the power of mindfulness. Because the sitting is very uncomfortable. We don't have much pleasure because we are using forceful attention. The mind will go somewhere else. And what will happen? After thinking many useless thoughts, then you realize, aha, I am here meditating on the breath. So this is what should not happen, even to the beginner. That's why the Buddha teaching, observe the breath with wisdom, which means a clear understanding, clear differentiation. You have to realize that, and you realize the counting. How? You realize the counting that you spontaneously, ren yun, stay with the breath. If you can spontaneously stay with the breath, the counting becomes nuisance. And if you spontaneously can stay with the breath, the following is naturally very clear. And when the following is clear, you go into the deeper stages of concentration. And you can use them for vipassana. So the key to real good meditation is on the breath is the following. According to the teachers, when you can succeed in the practice of following, then you will get a clear mental image, the shamatha image of the breath. If you don't succeed in the practice of the following, this clear mental image, nimitta, the shamatha nimitta that you need definitely in order to go to the deeper states of concentration, you need the shamatha nimitta. Shamatha nimitta is a mental object. This mental object is based on what you experience with the senses. But it belongs to the mind. So the Yogacara Bhumi Shastra explains it is a Xiangsu, similar to what you experience with a bodily consciousness, but it belongs to the mind. And when you experience clearly the mental object, what will happen? The mind will become subtle. We have explained the object of the five senses, according to Abhidharma, is like the two rams fighting with the horns. Is very, very rough touch. The touch of the mind with the object is very smooth touch. And the smooth touch is very comfortable. The rough touch is uncomfortable. So that when the mind has a clear mental image of the breath, it will naturally stay with the breath, because it is having a very pleasant, smooth touch, mental touch. So the perception, the feeling, the mind, attention, all becomes very, very stable. And the mind loses interest in other objects. Why? Because it is fulfilled with the touch of this subtle mental object. So you are ready to go into deeper and deeper states of concentration, connected with deeper and deeper states of purification of the mind. So after explaining, now we are talking about the 4 exercises connected with the practice of mindfulness gone into the body. The next, Buddha explains Sabbakaya patisamvedi asasi samiti sikhati, sabbakaya patisamvedi pasasi samiti sikhati. Patisamvedi means experience. We can translate experiencing, no harm. So experiencing the whole body, I breathe in, experiencing the whole body, I breathe out. Here, when you can breathe in and breathe out, experiencing the whole body, you will get clarity and relaxation, or pliability. Sometimes this prashrabdi is translated as pliability, but it is much more than just pliability. It contains many, many things. Lightness, softness, smoothness, expertise, clarity, straightness. All these in the Theravada tradition, they are factors of the mind, and they boil down to just one factor in the northern tradition, prashrabdi, Ching An. Ching is light, An is peaceful. Light and peaceful. Light and peaceful, very pleasant. Light and peaceful is the opposite of Tsujung, gross. Why are we uncomfortable? Because we are immersed in the grossness. Why we become comfortable? Because we become immersed in the Jing An, in the pliable, in the smooth, in the light. So we don't care so much about the unpleasant sensations, which surely everybody has unpleasant sensations in sitting. Even the great yogis, they have many, many unpleasant sensations. But they can tolerate. Why? Because they have this Jing-an, this pliability, clarity, lightness, and it comes together with detachment. And it can only come as we have learned these verses. Please remember, very wonderful verses. Saddhena tarati ogam. When we cross the ocean, it's not so easy to cross the ocean, but anyway, when we have faith in what we're doing, when we have faith in what we're doing, we practice mindfully. When we practice mindfully, we use the right effort, then what we get is this pliability. And the pliability is, according to this tradition, it is the base for joining shamatha and vipassana together effectively. As long as we don't have pliability, we can use shamatha image, we can the non-differentiated image, we can use differentiated image, but it will not be, we will not understand them, so to say, together. Understanding together means understanding as a one whole. Why? In order to meditate, we need the differentiating mind, and we also need the non-differentiating mind. We need both minds. When we penetrate both minds, we can penetrate one reality. Very important to contemplate this. So, if we have this shamatha and vipassana, then we can contemplate an ugly object with happiness because we have concentration. So the impure becomes pure, and the pure can become impure. This is a mastery of the mind. Neither pure nor impure. We are reciting the Heart Sutra. Neither pure nor impure, nor erosion, no non-extinguished, not one, not different. This is what is to be realized, the one. And this one is called emptiness. And it can be realized indeed by the meditation on the breath if we understand it correctly. So the next exercise then have many different explanations. Now, according to Theravada, the I learn means, of course, I have a deeper understanding. That's why I learn. And the whole body actually means three kinds of bodies. In Buddhism, the expression kaya, body, actually means, is similar to the expression aggregate, yin, khanda, or yin. it means many things together. Our body is composed of many, many things. Our mind is also composed of many, many things. Many different mental qualities. And our breath is also composed of many, many things, many different qualities. The wind can never come alone. It always comes together with the qualities of the earth, with the quality of the fire, with the qualities of the wind, and it appears only, as we have taught, in space. If there is no space, no form can appear. So all these are bodies. So we have three bodies: the body of the breath, this what Buddhism calls Karajakaya. Karajakaya means this karmic created body. Karmic created body is sensitive body. Whatever is karmically created in our bodies, that has sensitivity. According to Buddhism, what we see, this eye actually does not see the object. What sees the object is the sensitivity inside of the eye. Our ear does not hear the sound. What hears the sound is the sensitivity, karmically created sensitivity inside of the ear. The same for nose, for tongue, and for the body. The bodily sensitivity is spread everywhere, even in the eyes, in the ears, in the nose, in the tongue, everywhere. And all that is sensitive is karmically created. So we have had yesterday in our text, what is the cause of breathing? The space, either big space or the minute spaces in the body, which we should become more and more aware of by our meditation. That's also how we make the mind more and more subtle, by connecting it with more subtle objects. And finally, this Qian Yin, how they translate our text, I forgot. The karma which has pushed us from the previous life to the present life. The connecting karma. Due to that karma, our eyes can see, our ears can hear. So we are alive. We can touch. We can experience. So when these three bodies join together, then the following of the in-breath and out-breath becomes a natural process, spontaneously. Then we go into deep and deeper states of concentration. So the last exercise, pasambayam kaya sankaram asasisamiti sikati, pasambayam kaya sankaram pasasisamiti sikati. I learn to sublimate the formation of the body while breathing in and breathing out. This explains how we advance on our journey of shamatha and vipassana. We advance in placing perfectly our mind on the object and in purifying the mind through penetrating the objects. So this is what is to be learned in mindfulness gone inside the body. When the mindfulness is gone inside the body, we can learn all this. Then, through understanding the body, we understand the sensations. If we don't understand the body, we cannot understand the sensations, because the sensations come from receiving the body, receiving the form. And when we understand the sensations, we can understand the mind, because that's what mind differentiates actually. The worldly mind differentiates on the base of sensations. If there is no sensation, the worldly mind does not differentiate. And what we differentiate, in accordance with what we differentiate, then we also see, we experience. And what is to be experienced by a meditator are the objects connected with the process of liberation. And they are mental objects. And they are called the Dharma. And Dharma contains everything. But that what interests us is those dharmas, those contents of our experience which are connected with the process of liberation. So you will have in your text also the 5 aggregates, the dependent origination, the 4 noble truths. These are the objects called the objects of wisdom. Jnata. By penetrating the objects of wisdom, the purification comes. Now we will continue in the evening. Now let us go to the questions. So some very important questions which we have to elaborate a little bit. In walking meditation, do we focus on body movements? Lifting foot, moving forward, weight shift, or do we focus on in breath out, breath in breath, out breath as we walk? So it is very important to understand. Actually, there are many different ways of practicing meditation in walking. When you go to a forest hermitage, I have spent quite some time there, then they will teach you always to be mindful of the breath. When you walk, when you talk, if you meditate on the breath, always stay with the breath. But of course, try to do it while driving the car or try to do it by doing your job. Of course, it is not possible. So what we have to learn through walking is such type of walking we can easily apply in our daily life, and which can promote our mindfulness in daily life. So here we come to Zen. The Chan is very important. The Chan actually literally means dhyana, but it is not what we usually call the dhyana. The name has changed. The meaning of the name, the name is the same, but the meaning has completely changed. This very often happens in Buddhism. The dhyana actually means the first, second, third, fourth dhyana, the formless four dhyanas. This is, according to the Abhidhamma, when you study Pali, this is the content of the Samma Samadhi, of the correct Samadhi. But here the dhyana means something else. What does it mean? We do not differentiate between the wisdom and the concentration. And how do we do it? Here comes again the concept of emptiness. The walking is emptiness. Breathing is emptiness. So when you walk, you concentrate it on the walking and the mind becomes empty. With this empty mind, you are aware of the breath, you are aware of the surrounding, but the mind remains empty. Then when you go into meditation, very easy, when the mind is empty, very easy to meditate. This is how we complement the walking meditation with the sitting meditation. So it does not mean you don't know the breath, but it is not the object of your concentration. It remains in the background. When you meditate on the breath and you want to make this main meditation, so you don't forget the breath. You keep it in the background, but you concentrate on your present action with fully concentrated mind, being aware of everything around. So in Zen, we train walking like the tiger in the sand, very mindfully with empty mind. Being aware, not like in Theravada, the analyzing the elements. When you raise, so the light elements are predominant. When you place the food, the heavy elements are predominant. You can be aware of that, but you don't concentrate on that. So in the Chan tradition, you walk quickly, you walk slowly, you walk quickly, slowly again, then medium step. You can combine all types of walking. You don't need necessarily to walk very, very slowly. The walking should be naturally with empty mind. When you get used to walking with empty mind, then you can get eventually used to do things with empty mind. Then this is also the right mindfulness. When you sweep the floor, you do it with an empty mind. When you eat, you do it with an empty mind. When you, whatever action you do it with an empty mind. When you talk with an empty mind, spontaneously. Why? Because the talking is just talking. When you hear You hear with empty mind because a hearing is just hearing. When you see with empty mind because seeing is just seeing. When you taste with empty mind. All this you find in the agamas also. But here it becomes the dhyana. So the meaning of the dhyana has changed. But the same concept of the mindfulness is there. Actually, in mindfulness, you combine the concentration and wisdom. And when you combine concentration and wisdom, everything you do has a different quality. When you walk, you don't need supernatural powers. You can see who is walking mindfully and who is not walking mindfully. When you walk mindfully, the movement will be smooth. When you don't walk mindfully, the movement won't be smooth, will be zigzag and confused. When you speak mindfully, the speech will be smooth. When you don't speak mindfully, it will be all very easily to recognize. When you move the body mindfully, it will be smooth movements. When you don't move mindfully, it will be chaotic movements. This is how you bring wisdom and concentration into all your acts. And that is called Chan in the Chinese tradition. So this may be the best because we can use it. We can use it in the aranya, in the forest. We can use it in New York. We can use it everywhere. And we can see, as the sutta of mindfulness of the body explains, we can see it inside, we can see it outside, we can see it inside and outside. Now, very important questions, but we cannot go in detail into it, but slowly we will explain. Now just the gist. What is the difference between Liu, Miao, Men, the 6 wonderful methods of breath in North Buddhist breath meditation and South breath meditation, Anapana Sati? Are we practicing the North Buddhist meditation? Okay, I will now tell you just the gist. In the Northern meditation tradition on the breath, we have the 6 wonderful methods. In the Theravada tradition, we have 8 methods. And there is a good reason for that. What is the reason? Well, let's first say these 8 methods. The first one is the same, ganana, counting. First you have to count in order to stay with your meditation object. If you don't count, you will not stay with a meditation object. It does not mean you cannot use some other skillful means than counting, but you have to learn to stay with the meditation, with your object spontaneously. Then everything else will come. If you can't, you cannot expect any wonders. Nothing will come. So first is counting. After counting comes the following, the same. But after following, here in the 6 methods you don't have it, comes touching, fusana. Here is a difference. Northern tradition, no fusana. And it is explained how you place your attention in one place. Some teachers explain one point. Unfortunately, it is a misunderstanding. Even my teacher used to explain like that. Then it brings confusion. It is not one point, but one place. I see sometimes meditators like this. If you meditate like this, then you can't expect any samadhi or vipassana. Very difficult. Anyway, you stay in the place of touch. This place of touch is called the anapana nimitta. The sign of the anapana, sign of in-breath and out-breath. At first, the bodily touch will be clear. Then when the concentration and the qualities of the mind are improving, then the bodily impression goes into background and you get more and more involved with the mental image of the breath. This mental image of the breath is the shamatha nimitta. And there are stages in the development of this shamatha nimitta. You have a description in the Visuddhimagga. First is parikama nimitta, the preparatory image. Then you have the image which can be grasped. Then you have the reflected image, which you get as the object of the upachara samadhi, Wei Tao Ti San Mei, and of the first dhyana, second dhyana, third dhyana, fourth dhyana, all have the same object, this reflected image. Patibhaga nimitta, reflected image. What is very interesting, we have talked about Yogacara. In Yogacara, everything is a reflected image. And it's called the pratibimba. Bimba means image, prati means reflected. And this is very interesting. But in this tradition, you're actually creating the reflected image. It is not there in the beginning. So you have to have the mental image, no matter what kind of meditation you are practicing, you have to have a clear mental image of the object in order to merge with the object. If you don't have a clear mental image of the object, you cannot merge with the object. You will be distracted by the senses. And the mind can only stay stable on the mental object. It cannot stay stable on the objects of the 5 senses. Because if some other objects come, it will automatically run to the other object, which makes, we have given the simile of the 5 stones on the surface of the drum. Automatically the mind will try to catch that stone which jumps higher. If the sound is more, it will go to the sound. The airplane, what kind of airplane? Where does it come from? Then we have a pain in the knee. What kind of pain? Where we start investigating. When we pay attention to the pain, a little pain becomes a big pain. Why? Because the physical consciousness is rather rough. And when we pay undue attention to it, then we make the image more and more clear. So from little heat, we create the more heat by concentration. From little pain, we create the more pain by concentrating on it. It does not mean we cannot concentrate on the pain, but then we have to use the differentiated image. Actually, the pain is the sensation of the four elements: hardness, heat, pushing, and these elements are changing. If you observe the pain in this way, you can detach from the pain. So anyway, now let's come to the second question. You said Buddha got enlightenment by using breath meditation. Did he use, I did not explain completely, the touching. Touching, then the other, the observing, the turning away, and the purity is the same. What remains is just knowledge of purity, Visuddhi Jnana, but actually it is the same. But what makes a difference is this fusana, the touching. When you practice the meditation in the Southern tradition, you stay with the anapana nimitta, the touch of the breath. The most clear touch is around the nostrils, on the tip of the nose or on the upper lip. This is where it is most clear to distinguish. But actually, if you have better concentration, anywhere in the body you can distinguish. Because the whole body is participating in the process of the long or short breath. It expands, shrinks, expands, shrinks, expands, shrinks. But you first start with the obvious, then go to the non-obvious. You cannot start with the non-obvious because the mind does not have yet the concentration and the clarity you need. So the most obvious place for observing the breath is around the nostrils. That's where the gross breath goes inside the body. And you then don't follow the breath inside the body, don't follow the breath outside the body. You stay at the touch. This is the Southern tradition. Now we will learn in the Northern tradition. It does not mean you cannot use it, but this is incomplete. For knowledge of the breath, knowledge of the body, and so on, it is incomplete. So now the time is over. We will talk about these things more in the evening, and we keep the other questions for the evening. So let us finish here for now, because they may be expecting us for other activities. So let us try to do these activities mindfully. and try to watch inside, outside, who is, if we are doing it mindfully, if others are doing it mindfully, if we doing it mindfully, we eat in a different way, we walk in a different way, we talk in a different way, we sit in a different way. This is how we learn meditation. We bring mindfulness in everything that we do. When we bring mindfulness in what we do, the quality of what we do will be different. And when we bring in the wisdom of the emptiness of non-differentiating mind, then you can bring the mindfulness into your job, into anything what you're doing. And be completely fulfilled with what you're just doing. It's not easy, but this is what we want to live in a smooth way.